My name is Earnestine Davis, 32 years old, and until yesterday, the marketing director at Horizon Innovations. I spent hours selecting the perfect welcome bouquet for our new CEO, Maxwell Reed. I practiced my pitch about the exciting campaigns we were launching next quarter. I even wore my lucky navy suit. Then he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Jessica Ward, your time here is over." I stood frozen, clutching the bouquet meant for him. He had no idea that 3 days earlier I had closed the most crucial deal in company history. Before I tell you how my career imploded and what happened afterward, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever faced workplace injustice. I dedicated 5 years of my life to Horizon Innovations. This was not just a job for me, it was my second home. I started as a junior marketing associate with big dreams and a bigger work ethic. Every morning I arrived at 6:30 an hour before anyone else just to get ahead on projects. Every evening I was usually the last to leave, often staying until 8 or 9 reviewing campaign metrics and preparing presentations. My hard work paid off when I was promoted to marketing manager after just 2 years. I still remember the day Barbara Thompson, our CEO at the time, called me into her office. I thought I was in trouble for pushing too hard on the social media campaign that went slightly over budget. Instead, she slid a folder across her desk with my new contract inside. "Ernestine, you have a rare combination of creativity and analytical thinking. Our company needs more leaders like you," Barbara said, with her characteristic warm smile. That moment changed everything for me. I felt seen for the first time in my professional life. Under Barbara's mentorship, I flourished. Within another 18 months, I was promoted to marketing director, the youngest in company history at 29. My team grew from 3 people to 15, and together we increased company visibility by 78% and brought in 12 major clients. The office culture at Horizon was everything I had ever wanted in a workplace. We collaborated across departments, celebrated victories together, and supported each other through challenges. Barbara fostered an environment where innovation was rewarded and mistakes were viewed as learning opportunities. Every Monday we had company-wide breakfast meetings where anyone could pitch ideas directly to leadership. Many of our most successful campaigns came from those informal sessions. Last year we launched our most ambitious campaign for Athletic Pulse, a rising sports apparel company. The campaign increased their sales by 42% in just 1 quarter, and they signed a 3-year extension with us. My team worked countless late nights on that project, but the results made it all worthwhile. Barbara even gave everyone on the marketing team a bonus and an extra week of vacation as a thank you. I first heard rumors about Barbara retiring about 2 months ago. At first I dismissed them as office gossip. Barbara was only 62 and still full of energy and ideas. But then I noticed her having more closed-door meetings with the board, and she started asking me to lead more of the company-wide presentations. One Tuesday afternoon, she called me into her office and confirmed what I had started to suspect. "Ernestine, I have decided to retire at the end of the month. The board has already selected my replacement, Maxwell Reed from Vertex Systems." I knew Maxwell Reed by reputation only. He had transformed Vertex from a struggling tech company into a profitable business in just 18 months. His methods were rumored to be ruthlessly efficient with major staff cuts and restructuring. Still, his results were undeniable. What will this mean for the company? For my team, I asked Barbara, trying to keep my voice steady. Barbara squeezed my hand reassuringly. "Maxwell has assured the board that he values the culture we have built here. Yes, there will be changes, but that is inevitable with new leadership. I have specifically mentioned you and several others as key personnel he should retain." I left that meeting determined to make the transition as smooth as possible. I prepared detailed reports on all our current projects, client relationships, and future opportunities. I coached my team on how to showcase their value. I even planned a welcome reception for Maxwell's first day. What Barbara did not know, what no one knew except for a select few, was that I had been working on something big. 3 days before Maxwell's arrival, I had a meeting that would prove to be more important than anyone could have imagined. The morning of Maxwell Reed's arrival, I woke up at 4:30. Too excited and nervous to sleep any longer. I laid out my most professional outfit, a tailored navy suit with a cream blouse, and my grandmother's pearl earrings for good luck. I spent extra time on my hair and makeup, wanting to make a strong first impression. On my way to the office, I stopped at Blooming Creations, the most exclusive florist in the city. 2 days earlier, I had ordered a custom arrangement of blue hydrangeas, white roses, and subtle greenery designed to match our company colors. The florist had outdone herself, creating an elegant, modern arrangement that felt professional yet welcoming. "Special occasion," the florist asked as she handed me the heavy vase. "New CEO starting today," I replied, carefully balancing the arrangement. First impressions matter. I arrived at the office at 7:15, earlier than usual. I wanted to have everything perfect before Maxwell arrived. My team started trickling in around 8, all dressed their best and visibly nervous. "Listen up, everyone," I gathered them for a quick pep talk. "Today is about showcasing our best work. Maxwell Reed has an impressive track record and he will be looking for excellence. Just be yourselves and let your work speak for itself. We have nothing to worry about." Alicia, my most junior team member, raised her hand timidly. "I heard he fired half the marketing department at Vertex his first week." I forced a reassuring smile. "Different company, different circumstances. Barbara has personally recommended all of us. Just focus on your projects and let me handle the politics." Maxwell was scheduled to arrive at 9, but at 8:45 the receptionist called to say his car had just pulled up. I quickly gathered my welcome materials and headed to the lobby carrying the enormous flower arrangement. My first impression of Maxwell Reed was not what I expected. From his reputation, I had imagined someone older, perhaps with a commanding physical presence. Instead, I found myself facing a man, probably in his early 40s, average height, with meticulously styled dark hair and expensive glasses. He wore a gray suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent and carried a sleek leather briefcase. What struck me most was his eyes, cold, calculating, assessing everything and everyone in the lobby as if determining their monetary value. When our receptionist Susan cheerfully offered him coffee, he merely shook his head without even acknowledging her greeting. I stepped forward with my most professional smile. "Mr. Reed, welcome to Horizon Innovations. I am Earnestine Davis, Marketing Director. We are all very excited to have you joining us." He glanced at the flower arrangement, then at me, with a look that might have been mild disdain. "Thank you, Miss Davis. I will be addressing the company at 10. Until then, I need to get settled." Without waiting for a response, he followed the waiting assistant to the elevator, leaving me standing awkwardly with the heavy vase. I returned to my office and set the flowers on my desk, trying not to feel deflated by the chilly reception. He is probably just focused on his first day, I told myself. No need to read too much into it. At 10 sharp, the entire company gathered in the main conference room. Maxwell stood at the front, posture, perfect expression, unreadable. He did not smile as Barbara introduced him with warm words about his accomplishments and vision. When he finally spoke, his voice was clear and authoritative. "Thank you for the welcome. Horizon Innovations has built a respectable reputation in the industry. However, in today's competitive market, respectable is not enough. I have been brought in to take this company to the next level, which will require necessary changes. Some of these changes may be uncomfortable, but all will be essential." The atmosphere in the room chilled noticeably. I glanced around at my colleagues, seeing the same unease reflected in their expressions. This did not sound like someone who valued the culture we had built. I will be meeting with department heads individually over the next few days to assess current operations. That is all for now. Please return to your work. With that abrupt ending, Maxwell left the room, followed by Barbara and several board members. I spent the rest of the morning reassuring my increasingly anxious team while trying to quell my own growing concerns. Maxwell had scheduled a meeting with me for 4:30 that afternoon. I used the time to prepare a comprehensive presentation on our department's achievements, current projects, and strategic plans for the next year. At 4:25, I gathered my materials, straightened my jacket, and picked up the flower arrangement that had been sitting on my desk all day. I decided to bring it despite the morning's awkward exchange. Perhaps in a more private setting, Maxwell would be more receptive. His assistant, a composed woman named Amanda, glanced up as I approached. "He is on a call but should be finished soon. You can wait there." She gestured to a chair across from her desk, not commenting on the enormous flower arrangement I was struggling to hold. At exactly 4:30, the door to Maxwell's office opened. You can go in now, Amanda said, her expression giving nothing away. I walked into the office that until recently had belonged to Barbara. The transformation was jarring. Barbara's warm touches, the family photos, the comfortable visitor chairs, the bowl of chocolates she kept for guests, all gone. In their place was a minimalist setup, sleek desk, ergonomic chair, state-of-the-art computer, and precisely nothing else. No photos, no decorations, not even a plant. Maxwell was typing something on his laptop and did not look up when I entered. I stood awkwardly for a moment before clearing my throat. Mr. Reed, thank you for making time to meet with me today. I have prepared an overview of our marketing operations that I believe will give you a comprehensive understanding of our department's value to Horizon. He finally looked up, his expression impassive. That won't be necessary, Miss Ward. I blinked in confusion. I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. My name is Davis, Earnestine Davis. He closed his laptop with a decisive click. Jessica Ward, your time here is over. I stood frozen, clutching the bouquet meant for him. I am not Jessica Ward. I am Earnestine Davis, Marketing Director. I have been with Horizon for 5 years. Maxwell's expression did not change. The confusion about your name is irrelevant. Your position has been eliminated effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. There must be some mistake, I stammered, still holding the ridiculous flowers. I just closed the Apex Global account last week. We have major campaigns launching next month. My team needs direction on the Athletic Pulse renewal. Those matters will be handled by my team, Maxwell replied coldly. This decision is final. I suggest you make this transition dignified for everyone involved. As if on cue, a security guard appeared at the door. Maxwell had already reopened his laptop, dismissing me from his attention. I stood there for several seconds, shock rendering me immobile. Then, humiliation burning through me, I turned and walked out, still clutching the wilting bouquet. The security guard, Rico, looked deeply uncomfortable. I had known him for years, had brought him coffee many mornings. I am so sorry, Miss Davis. I did not know about this until 5 minutes ago. It is okay, Rico. Just doing your job, I managed to say, though my voice sounded distant to my own ears. Walking through the office with a security escort while carrying a flower arrangement intended as a welcome gift was perhaps the most humiliating experience of my professional life. Colleagues stared as I passed, confusion and concern on their faces. Some quickly looked away as if my situation might be contagious. At my office, Rico waited outside while I gathered my belongings. I had accumulated 5 years of memories in this space. Photos, awards, gifts from my team, the emergency heels I kept under my desk. How was I supposed to pack up half a decade in a few minutes? I grabbed my purse and a small plant, leaving everything else. I will need to come back for the rest, I told Rico, who nodded sympathetically. I will let HR know, he promised. As I walked out of Horizon Innovations for what I believed was the last time, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. I had been fired. On the new CEO's first day. Without warning, without explanation, without even the courtesy of getting my name right. The drive home passed in a blur. Somehow I still had the bouquet with me, now wilting in the passenger seat of my car. Tears streamed down my face, making it difficult to see the road. I pulled over twice to compose myself, only to break down again moments later. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, but I could not bring myself to look. What would I even say to people? How could I explain something I did not understand myself? When I finally reached my apartment, I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, unable to summon the energy to move. The finality of what had happened was beginning to sink in. 5 years of dedication, of early mornings and late nights, of sacrificed weekends and holidays, all ended in a 3-minute meeting where Maxwell Reed did not even get my name right. I finally dragged myself upstairs, still carrying the bouquet like some bizarre trophy of failure. My cat Gatsby greeted me at the door with his usual enthusiasm, oblivious to my distress. I placed the flowers on my kitchen counter, then collapsed onto my couch. Gatsby immediately jumping onto my lap. Well, buddy, looks like I will be home a lot more now, I told him, scratching behind his ears. The absurdity of the situation hit me and I laughed through my tears. I had spent the morning choosing the perfect welcome gift for the man who would fire me before the day was over. Around 7 that evening, I finally checked my phone. 27 missed calls, and over 40 text messages. Most were from my team members confused and concerned. Several were from other department heads. 2 were from Barbara. I started with Barbara's voicemails. Ernestine, I just heard what happened. I am absolutely shocked. This was not the plan we discussed with the board. Please call me as soon as you can. The second message left an hour later sounded even more distressed. Ernestine, I have been trying to reach Maxwell, but he is not taking my calls. The board chairman claims this is a necessary restructuring. I am so sorry. This is not what I wanted for you or for Horizon. Please call me. I want to help however I can. Next, I listened to messages from my team. Their confusion and outrage on my behalf brought fresh tears to my eyes. Alicia was openly crying in her message, saying the office felt like a funeral. Mark, my senior copywriter, sounded angry, saying several people were considering quitting in protest. Then came the most surprising calls. Ryan, from accounting, Stephanie, from HR, and David, from product development, had all been fired as well. All department heads, all long-term employees, all dismissed on Maxwell's first day. I called Stephanie back, first needing to understand what was happening from an HR perspective. This is completely irregular, Stephanie said, her voice tight with controlled anger. No performance reviews were consulted, no transition plans put in place. Maxwell brought in his own people from Vertex to replace us all. 4 of them arrived this afternoon, right after the last of us was escorted out. Is that even legal? I asked, pacing my living room. Borderline at best, Stephanie replied. Maxwell bypassed standard HR protocols completely. I have already spoken with my attorney. There may be grounds for wrongful termination, especially given the pattern of replacing established leaders with his previous employees. That night I barely slept. I alternated between devastating self-doubt and burning anger. Had I somehow failed at my job without realizing it? Was there something I could have done differently? Or was this simply corporate politics at its worst? By morning I had moved firmly into anger. Maxwell Reed had no right to dismiss me without even reviewing my work or understanding my contributions to the company. He did not even know my name, and he certainly had no idea about the meeting I had attended 3 days earlier. My phone rang at 7:30. It was Mark calling before office hours. The place is chaos, he reported in a hushed voice. The new marketing director has no idea about any of our ongoing campaigns. She keeps asking about files and clients that do not exist and knows nothing about the actual accounts we handle. Your team is basically refusing to cooperate. Alicia had a crying fit in the bathroom, and Jack straight up told the new director that her strategy for Athletic Pulse would violate our contract with them. What about the Apex account? I asked, suddenly remembering the massive deal I had closed. No one has mentioned it, Mark said. I do not think they even know about it yet. After hanging up with Mark, I called Stephanie again. As the former head of HR, she would have insight into my options. The hasty terminations without cause or review definitely strengthen a wrongful termination case, she confirmed. But there is something else you should know. My assistant just called me. Apparently Maxwell's people are terminating employees without the proper documentation. They do not have access to the HR systems yet, so technically, you are still in the system as an active employee. This information sparked an idea. If I was still technically employed according to the system, I still had access to my emails and files. I opened my laptop and logged into the company system remotely. Sure enough, my access was still active. I quickly downloaded all my performance reviews, project successes, and client feedback from the past 5 years. Then I remembered the Apex Global contract. 3 days before Maxwell arrived, I had finalized the biggest deal in Horizon's history. A $50 million marketing contract with Apex Global, one of the largest technology companies in the country. The contract had one unusual stipulation. Apex had specifically requested that I personally oversee their account, having been impressed with my previous campaigns. I found the signed contract in my files and read through it carefully. There it was in black and white. Horizon Innovations agrees that Earnestine Davis will serve as primary account manager for all campaigns covered under this agreement. Any change to this arrangement must be approved in writing by Apex Global Executive Management. I sat back, mind racing. Maxwell Reed had just violated a $50 million contract on his first day, and he did not even know it yet. I immediately called Jeffrey Burton, my main contact at Apex Global. "Ernestine, I was just about to call you." Jeffrey greeted me warmly. "We have the kickoff meeting for the campaign next week, right?" "Jeffrey, I need to tell you something," I said, taking a deep breath. "I was terminated from Horizon yesterday." The silence on the other end was deafening. When Jeffrey finally spoke, his voice had lost all warmth. "That is completely unacceptable. Our contract specifically requires your involvement. The board only approved this expenditure because of your track record." "I know," I replied. "I do not think the new CEO is aware of the contract requirements." "Well, he is about to become very aware," Jeffrey said grimly. "I am calling our legal team right now. This is a material breach of contract on day one. The board will have my head if this falls apart." After hanging up with Jeffrey, I felt a strange mix of vindication and anxiety. I had just set in motion events that could significantly damage Horizon, a company I still cared about despite everything. But Maxwell's reckless actions had left me little choice. This was not just about my job anymore. It was about the company's integrity and the livelihoods of everyone who worked there. 3 days before Maxwell Reed arrived at Horizon Innovations, I sat in our largest conference room surrounded by executives from Apex Global. The culmination of 6 months of proposals, negotiations, and relationship building had led to this moment. Apex Global was the white whale of clients in our industry. A technology giant with billions in annual revenue, they were known for their exclusive long-term partnerships with marketing firms. For years, they had worked with Prestige Marketing, our biggest competitor. When we heard rumors that they were considering a change, I personally led the initiative to bring them to Horizon. As you can see from our proposal, we have designed a comprehensive multi-channel approach that addresses your specific challenges in the Asian market. I explained, clicking through my carefully prepared presentation. Our research shows that your current strategy is missing key cultural nuances that are affecting brand perception in Japan and South Korea. Jeffrey Burton, Apex's chief marketing officer, nodded appreciatively. Next to him, Lisa Chen, their international relations director, was taking detailed notes. On the other side of the table, Barbara Thompson watched with barely concealed excitement. We all knew what this meeting could mean for Horizon. "What impressed us most about your approach, Ernestine, is how you integrated our technical specifications without losing the emotional impact," Jeffrey said. "Most agencies either focus too much on the technical aspects, making the marketing feel cold, or they go too emotional and misrepresent our products. Ernestine has a rare talent for balancing those elements," Barbara added proudly. "She has transformed how we approach technical clients." After the presentation, we moved to the more serious business of discussing contract terms. This was where Barbara usually took the lead, but today she surprised me. "Ernestine will be handling the negotiations since she will be managing this account personally," Barbara announced. "She has full authority to make decisions on behalf of Horizon." The negotiations proceeded smoothly until we reached the topic of account management. Jeffrey leaned forward, his expression serious. "Before we proceed further, we need to address a critical requirement," he said. "Our board has specifically approved this partnership on the condition that Ernestine serves as our primary contact and campaign lead. We have been impressed with her understanding of our industry and creative approach. This is non-negotiable for us." Barbara looked slightly surprised but nodded. "Of course. Ernestine is our marketing director and would naturally lead this account." "We would like that explicitly stated in the contract," Lisa added. "We have had situations with other agencies where promised personnel were reassigned after the contract was signed." Our legal counsel, Rachel Morris, who had been quietly observing until now, spoke up. "We can certainly include a named personnel clause. However, we typically add language allowing for replacement in case of unforeseen circumstances with client approval." Jeffrey nodded. "That is acceptable, provided we have final approval on any replacement. We are essentially hiring Ernestine's vision and expertise." I felt a rush of pride at his words. Years of hard work, countless late nights, and relentless dedication to understanding clients' needs had led to this moment of professional recognition. The final contract was prepared by Rachel and the Apex legal team. The relevant clause read, Horizon Innovations agrees that Earnestine Davis will serve as primary account manager for all campaigns covered under this agreement. Any change to this arrangement must be approved in writing by Apex Global Executive Management. When all parties had signed, Jeffrey handed me his business card with his personal cell number written on the back. Call me directly if there are any issues at all. Our CEO is personally interested in this partnership, and we want it to be successful. After the Apex team left, Barbara hugged me tightly. $50 million, Earnestine. This is the largest contract in our company's history. The board is going to be thrilled. I still cannot believe they insisted on having me in the contract, I admitted. I can, Barbara replied. You impressed them, and rightly so. This is why I have been pushing the board to consider you for a senior leadership position. Do you think the new CEO will support that? I asked, suddenly remembering that Barbara would be leaving soon. Maxwell will recognize talent when he sees it, Barbara assured me. Just keep doing what you do best. Little did either of us know how wrong she would be. Now, sitting in my apartment the day after being fired, I realized the full implications of the Apex contract. Maxwell Reed had not only fired me without cause, but he had also potentially violated a $50 million contract that represented the largest deal in company history. I called Barbara to fill her in on the developing situation. This is unconscionable, she fumed after hearing about my conversation with Jeffrey. The board approved Maxwell's appointment based on his promises to grow the company, not dismantle it. He did not even review ongoing projects or contracts before making these decisions. Jeffrey said Apex's legal team is already preparing to notify Horizon of the breach, I told her. This could cost the company the entire contract. It is worse than that, Barbara said grimly. If word gets out that Horizon violated a major contract on the first day of new leadership, other clients will start questioning our stability and reliability. This could trigger a mass exodus. I do not want to see Horizon collapse, I admitted. Despite everything, I still care about the company and especially my team. Then we need to give Maxwell one chance to correct his mistake, Barbara decided. I have known him professionally for years. He is ruthless but practical. If he understands the financial implications, he might reverse course. You think I should reach out to him? I asked skeptically. Send an email to Maxwell and copy the board, Barbara advised. Lay out the facts clearly and professionally. No accusations or emotions, just the contract terms and the potential consequences. Following Barbara's advice, I drafted a careful email. Dear Mr. Reed, I am writing regarding the Apex Global contract signed 3 days ago, which represents a $50 million commitment to Horizon Innovations. As you may not have been briefed on this recent development, there is a specific clause requiring my personal management of the account. Apex Global executives have been informed of my termination and consider it a material breach of contract. They are preparing legal notification to this effect. I am providing this information out of concern for Horizon's reputation and financial stability. The signed contract is attached for your reference. Respectfully, Earnestine Davis. I copied the entire board of directors, and Barbara then attached the contract with the relevant clause highlighted. After reading it over 3 times, I finally hit send. Then I waited. 1 hour passed. 2 hours. By evening, I had received no response from Maxwell or anyone on the board. Either they were ignoring the situation, or they were in crisis mode behind the scenes. At 9 that evening, my phone rang. It was Jeffrey from Apex. Our legal team sent the formal notice of breach to Horizon's board and legal department an hour ago, he informed me. They have 24 hours to remedy the situation before we terminate the contract entirely. What would remedying the situation entail? I asked. Either reinstating you to your position with full authority over our account, or releasing us from the contract with no penalties, Jeffrey replied. Personally, I hope it is the former. We were excited about working with you, Earnestine. I thanked Jeffrey for the update and tried to get some sleep, knowing that tomorrow would likely bring significant developments. My last thought before drifting off was wondering how Maxwell Reed would react when he realized the full magnitude of his hasty decision. Morning arrived with no communication from Maxwell or the board. I decided to be proactive and called my former colleague Rachel Morris from the legal department who had helped draft the Apex contract. Rachel, it is Earnestine. Have you heard anything about the Apex situation? Rachel lowered her voice. It is chaos here, Earnestine. The legal team received Apex's breach notice last night and immediately notified Maxwell and the board. They are in emergency meetings right now. Maxwell looks like he is about to explode. Has anyone suggested contacting me? I asked. Your name is coming up a lot, Rachel confirmed. But Maxwell seems resistant to the idea of reversing any of his decisions from yesterday. After hanging up with Rachel, I called my friend Thomas, who practiced employment law. I had reached out to him yesterday for advice about my termination, and now I needed more specific guidance. Given the contract clause and Apex's position, you have significant leverage, Thomas advised after hearing the update. But you need to be strategic about how you use it. What is your goal here? I considered his question carefully. I want my job back, obviously. But more than that, I want to protect my team and ensure the company does not implode under Maxwell's leadership. Then you need more than just the Apex contract, Thomas said thoughtfully. You need to demonstrate your value to the entire company and show that Maxwell's approach is damaging to Horizon's long-term prospects. Thomas helped me compile a comprehensive document outlining my contributions to Horizon over the past 5 years' revenue generated from my campaigns. Client relationships cultivated, awards, won, team members developed. We included testimonials from clients that I had saved in my files and detailed the growth trajectory of the marketing department under my leadership. Send this to the board along with a professional but firm letter stating your conditions for returning, Thomas advised. Make it clear that this is not just about you, but about the company's stability and reputation. I spent the morning crafting the letter, carefully balancing confidence with professionalism. I outlined my terms: full reinstatement with a promotion to senior marketing director, reinstatement of my team members, and a formal apology. I also requested a seat on the leadership committee to ensure marketing had proper representation in company decisions moving forward. Just as I was preparing to send the document, Barbara called. Earnestine, I have been speaking with several board members privately, she said without preamble. They had no idea Maxwell was planning to replace department heads with his people from Vertex. He presented it yesterday as a necessary restructuring that had been planned with my knowledge. That is completely false, I gasped. Of course it is, Barbara agreed. And now they are discovering that his rash actions might cost them their biggest contract. Charles Williams, the board chairman, is particularly concerned about potential shareholder reactions if this becomes public. I am about to send them a proposal for my reinstatement, I told her, explaining the document Thomas had helped me prepare. Perfect timing, Barbara said. I have also learned something troubling about Maxwell's history that you should know. At his previous 2 companies, he followed the same pattern: replace key personnel with his own team, cut costs aggressively, show short-term profit improvements, then move on before the long-term damage became apparent. Both companies struggled significantly after his departure. This information confirmed my worst fears about Maxwell's intentions for Horizon. He was not interested in building on our success. He wanted to extract quick profits at the expense of the company's future. Include that context in your letter to the board, Barbara suggested. They need to understand the pattern they might be enabling. I revised my letter to incorporate this new information, then sent the entire package to each board member individually with Maxwell copied. I wanted him to know that I was approaching this professionally but assertively. Within an hour, I received a response from Charles Williams. Miss Davis, the board is reviewing your materials and discussing the Apex situation. We will be in touch shortly regarding next steps. It was not much, but it was acknowledgement. My phone began ringing with calls from former colleagues seeking updates or offering support. Apparently, word of the Apex contract situation had spread throughout the company. Mark called around noon. The new marketing team is completely overwhelmed, he reported. They have no idea where any files are or how our client management system works. 3 clients have already called asking to speak with you specifically, and they are being told you are no longer with the company with no further explanation. The afternoon crept by with no further communication from Horizon leadership. I alternated between anxious pacing and attempting to distract myself with mindless television. At 5:30, just as I was considering ordering takeout for dinner, my doorbell rang. To my utter shock, Amanda Maxwell's secretary stood on my doorstep. Miss Davis, I apologize for coming to your home, she said, looking uncomfortable. I felt it was important to speak with you directly. I invited her and curious about what could have prompted this unusual visit. I have worked with Maxwell Reed for 3 years. Amanda began once we were seated in my living room. I followed him from Vertex to Horizon because I believed in his vision. But what happened yesterday crossed a line. What do you mean? I asked. Maxwell always makes personnel changes when he takes over a company. That is his style, and I have seen it work before. But he typically reviews operations first, identifies actual problems, and makes targeted changes. Yesterday was different. He fired all of you without even looking at your files. Do you know why I pressed? Amanda hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. Jessica Ward was the marketing director at our previous company. She and Maxwell had significant conflicts over campaign strategies. When he saw your name on the department head list, he confused you with her and made a snap judgment. I stared at her in disbelief. He fired me because he confused me with someone else. Essentially, yes, Amanda admitted. And now with the Apex contract situation, he is scrambling. The board called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. They are not happy. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Are not you risking your job? Amanda straightened her shoulders. I believe in doing things the right way. What happened to you and the others was wrong. And frankly, I am concerned about Maxwell's leadership. This pattern of behavior has gotten worse at each company. I came to Horizon because it has a reputation for ethical business practices. I would like to see that continue. After Amanda left, I called Barbara to update her on this extraordinary development. This confirms what I suspected, Barbara said. Maxwell is becoming more reckless with each company he leads. The board needs to address this immediately before more damage is done. Amanda mentioned an emergency board meeting tomorrow morning, I told her. Yes, Charles called me about it, Barbara confirmed. They want me to attend as well, given my history with the company and knowledge of the Apex deal. Earnestine, they have asked if you would be willing to join the meeting too. Me. At the board meeting, I was stunned. Yes. They want to hear directly from you about the Apex contract and your department's operations. This is your opportunity to make your case in person. I spent the rest of the evening preparing for the meeting, organizing my thoughts and practicing what I would say. This was potentially the most important presentation of my career, and I needed to be perfectly composed and professional despite the emotional roller coaster of the past 2 days. The next morning, I dressed in my most authoritative outfit, a charcoal gray suit with a burgundy blouse and minimal elegant jewelry. I arrived at Horizon headquarters 30 minutes early, taking a moment in my car to center myself before walking into the building that had been my professional home for 5 years. Rico, the security guard, looked shocked to see me. Miss Davis. No one told me you were coming in today. I have a meeting with the board, I explained. It is all right, Rico. The receptionist also did a double take as I entered the lobby, but quickly recovered and directed me to the executive conference room on the top floor. As I rode the elevator up, I took deep breaths, reminding myself that I had nothing to apologize for. I had done my job exceptionally well, and the current crisis was not of my making. As the elevator doors opened, I saw Amanda waiting for me. Miss Davis, the board is assembled in the main conference room. Mr. Reed is with them. She lowered her voice. I thought you should know he spent all of yesterday trying to renegotiate with Apex, but they refused to speak with anyone but you. I nodded my thanks for this crucial piece of information and squared my shoulders. It was time to fight for my career and for the company I still believed in. The main conference room fell silent as I entered. Around the long table sat the 9 members of Horizon's board of directors, Barbara Thompson and Maxwell Reed. All eyes turned to me with expressions ranging from curiosity to discomfort to outright hostility from Maxwell. Miss Davis, thank you for joining us. Charles Williams, the board chairman, greeted me. Please have a seat. I took the empty chair directly across from Maxwell, meeting his cold gaze with calm professionalism. We have asked you here to discuss the situation with Apex Global and your termination, Charles continued. As you know, Apex has issued a formal notice of breach of contract based on the clause requiring your personal management of their account. Maxwell interrupted, his voice tight with controlled anger. Which is an unusual clause that should never have been approved. No single employee should have that much leverage over a company contract. Nevertheless, Charles said firmly, it is a legally binding clause that was approved by our legal team and signed by both parties. The question now is how we proceed. I waited for an invitation to speak, maintaining my composure despite the tension in the room. Miss Davis, a board member named Patricia Morgan, addressed me. Could you explain to us the circumstances of the Apex contract and why they insisted on your personal involvement? Of course, I replied, keeping my voice steady and professional. Apex Global was previously with our competitor Prestige Marketing for 8 years. When we learned they were considering a change, I personally led the initiative to bring them to Horizon. Over 6 months, I developed a relationship with their marketing team, studied their products and market challenges, and created a customized approach addressing specific issues they were facing in Asian markets. I opened my portfolio and distributed copies of the presentation I had given to Apex. This was the final presentation that secured the contract. As you can see, it integrates technical specifications with emotional marketing elements, an approach that particularly impressed their executive team. The board members flipped through the detailed presentation, several nodding appreciatively. Apex specifically requested my continued involvement because they valued this integrated approach and my understanding of their industry. I continued. Their board had approved the $50 million expenditure, based partly on their confidence in my leadership of the account. Charles turned to Maxwell. Mr. Reed, you attempted to renegotiate with Apex yesterday. What was their response? Maxwell's jaw tightened. They refused to discuss alternatives. Their position is that either Miss Davis manages the account as specified in the contract, or they terminate the agreement and potentially seek damages for the breach, which would be a significant financial and reputational blow to Horizon, Barbara added, especially coming so soon after a leadership change. The timing is unfortunate, Maxwell conceded stiffly. Had I been made aware of this contract requirement before making personnel decisions, I might have approached things differently. Might have Patricia Morgan raised an eyebrow. Mr. Reed, you fired Miss Davis and several other department heads without reviewing their files, current projects, or contract obligations. That seems like a significant oversight for someone brought in to improve company operations. Maxwell shifted uncomfortably. I made decisions based on my assessment of what the company needed moving forward. An assessment made without reviewing performance data, another board member asked skeptically. I brought in proven performers from my previous company, Maxwell defended. People I know can deliver results. This was my opening. With respect, Mr. Reed, results at one company do not automatically translate to another. Horizon's clients have specific expectations and relationships with our team members. As evidenced by the Apex situation, abrupt changes can jeopardize those relationships. I opened a second folder and distributed the document I had prepared outlining my contributions to Horizon. Over the past 5 years, my department has increased marketing revenue by 68%, brought in 14 major clients, and won 7 industry awards for our campaigns. My team has the highest retention rate in the company and consistently receives top client satisfaction scores. The board members reviewed these materials with interest. I could see Maxwell growing increasingly uncomfortable as the conversation shifted away from his authority to make changes and toward the concrete value I brought to the company. There is another matter that concerns me, I said carefully. When Mr. Reed terminated me, he called me Jessica Ward. I am not familiar with that name, but I understand she was the marketing director at Vertex Systems. All eyes turned to Maxwell, whose face had reddened slightly. A momentary confusion, he muttered. The name is irrelevant to the decision. Amanda, who had been silently taking notes in the corner of the room, suddenly spoke up. Mr. Reed, with respect, you specifically mentioned Jessica Ward in our preparation meeting and said you wanted to handle her first. The room fell silent at this unexpected intervention from Maxwell's own secretary. Maxwell stared at her, clearly feeling betrayed. Charles cleared his throat. Mr. Reed, are you saying you fired Miss Davis because you confused her with someone from your previous company? Maxwell's composure finally cracked. Fine. Yes, there was a misidentification, but the restructuring was always part of my plan for Horizon. Bringing in my own team has proven successful at other companies. Has it? Barbara asked pointedly. Because my research shows that both Global Tech and Vertex systems experienced significant client losses and revenue declines within a year of your departure. Short-term profit improvements were achieved through cost-cutting measures that proved unsustainable. The board members exchanged concerned glances. This was clearly new information to many of them. That is a mischaracterization of the data, Maxwell insisted, but his confident demeanor had faltered. Charles turned to me. Miss Davis, assuming we could resolve this situation, would you be willing to return to Horizon? I care deeply about this company and our clients, I replied honestly. I would be willing to return under the right conditions. And those conditions would be? Patricia asked. I laid out my terms, clearly reinstatement with a promotion to Senior Marketing Director, reinstatement of my team members, a seat on the leadership committee, and a commitment to more thorough review processes for major company decisions. These terms are not just for my benefit, I explained. They are to ensure that marketing has appropriate representation in company decisions and that client relationships are properly valued. The situation with Apex demonstrates the risks of making changes without understanding existing commitments. The board members nodded, several looking impressed with my professional approach, despite the circumstances. I believe we need to discuss these matters privately, Charles announced. Miss Davis, thank you for your time and candor. We will contact you shortly with our decision. As I stood to leave, I noticed Maxwell's expression, a mixture of anger and reluctant respect. He had underestimated me, and now he was paying the price for that miscalculation. Barbara walked me to the elevator. You were brilliant in there, she whispered. Completely professional but firm. I am proud of you. Do you think they will agree to my terms? I asked quietly. After that presentation, Barbara smiled. I would be shocked if they did not. But regardless of what happens next, you have proven your value beyond any doubt. Any company would be lucky to have you. I left the building feeling strangely peaceful. I had done everything I could to advocate for myself and for the company values I believed in. Whatever the board decided, I knew I had handled this crisis with integrity and professionalism. 3 hours later, my phone rang. It was Charles Williams. Miss Davis, the board has reached a decision. We would like to offer you the position of Senior Marketing Director effective immediately with all the conditions you requested. Additionally, we would like to appoint you as the Executive Liaison for the Apex Global account with appropriate compensation adjustments. I closed my eyes in relief. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I accept the position. Excellent. There is one more thing, Charles continued. Mr. Reed will remain as CEO, but the board has placed him on a 90-day probationary period. All major personnel or structural changes must be approved by the board during this time. We believe this balanced approach will allow for necessary improvements while preserving what makes Horizon successful. I understand, I replied, already thinking about how to navigate this potentially awkward working relationship. Can you start tomorrow? Charles asked. Apex is eager to proceed with the campaign planning. I will be there at 8, I promised. After hanging up, I allowed myself a moment of pure triumph. Against all odds, I had not only reclaimed my position but emerged stronger than before. The challenge of working with Maxwell remained, but I was confident in my ability to handle it professionally. I called my team members one by one to share the news of their reinstatement. Their joy and relief brought tears to my eyes. Together, we would continue building on Horizon's success now, with even greater recognition of our value to the company. Walking back into Horizon Innovations the next morning felt surreal. Just 3 days earlier, I had been escorted out by security, clutching a wilting bouquet and fighting back tears. Now, I returned as Senior Marketing Director, with an expanded role and the explicit backing of the board. The receptionist greeted me with a warm smile and a knowing look. Welcome back, Miss Davis. Your team is waiting for you in the marketing department. As I walked through the office, colleagues stopped to welcome me back, many with visible relief in their expressions. The atmosphere had shifted noticeably from the tension of Maxwell's first day to cautious optimism. When I reached the marketing department, I found my entire team gathered in the conference room with a homemade welcome back banner and coffee from my favorite shop. Alicia rushed forward to hug me, still emotional about the roller coaster of the past few days. We knew you would fix this somehow, Mark said, handing me a coffee. No one fires Earnestine Davis and gets away with it. Actually, they did fire me, I reminded them with a smile. But sometimes getting knocked down gives you the perspective to stand up stronger. After the impromptu celebration, I called a proper team meeting to discuss our priorities moving forward. First and foremost, we need to get the Apex campaign fully developed. Jeffrey is expecting our initial concepts by next week. Second, we need to reassure all our existing clients that the leadership changes will not affect their campaigns. And third, we need to document all our processes and client relationships more thoroughly to prevent future misunderstandings. What about the new marketing people Maxwell brought in? Jack asked. Are they still here? 2 have been reassigned to other departments where there were actual vacancies, I explained. The others have returned to Vertex. The board has instituted a review process for all new hires and organizational changes. We spent the morning diving back into our projects, the team's energy and creativity flowing as if the disruption had never happened. Around 11, Amanda called to inform me that Maxwell requested a meeting at 2 that afternoon. I spent my lunch break preparing for this potentially difficult conversation, reminding myself to remain professional regardless of Maxwell's attitude. At precisely 2, I knocked on his office door. Come in, his voice called. Maxwell sat behind his desk, his posture rigid, expression carefully neutral. Miss Davis, thank you for coming. Of course, I replied, taking a seat across from him. I believe we have several matters to discuss. Indeed. Maxwell cleared his throat. First, I should acknowledge the error regarding your identification. Confusing you with Jessica Ward was unprofessional and led to an incorrect assessment of your value to Horizon. It was not exactly an apology, but it was more than I had expected. Second, he continued, I have reviewed the Apex Global contract and your marketing department's performance metrics. Both are impressive. The board was correct to insist on your reinstatement. Thank you, I said simply. However, Maxwell's tone hardened slightly. I still believe Horizon needs significant changes to remain competitive in the current market. My methods may have been hasty, but my assessment of the company's weaknesses stands. I considered my response carefully. This was an opportunity to either establish an adversarial relationship or find common ground. Every company has room for improvement, I acknowledged, Horizon included. What specific weaknesses have you identified? Maxwell seemed surprised by my willingness to engage constructively. He pulled out a folder and opened it on his desk. Your marketing department is actually one of the strongest areas of the company, he admitted, but operations is inefficient. Our digital infrastructure is outdated, and our product development timeline is too slow compared to industry standards. For the next hour, we had a surprisingly productive discussion about potential improvements that would not require dismantling what worked well. I shared insights from my 5 years with the company, and Maxwell contributed perspectives from his broader industry experience. By the end of our meeting, we had identified several concrete areas for collaboration. I believe we can work together effectively. Miss Davis, Maxwell concluded, his tone noticeably warmer than when our meeting began. Provided we maintain clear communication and respect for each other's expertise. I agree, I replied, standing to leave. And please call me Earnestine. Over the following weeks, Horizon settled into a new normal. Maxwell's aggressive approach was tempered by the board's oversight, while his focus on efficiency brought valuable improvements to certain departments. My marketing team thrived with renewed confidence and expanded responsibilities. The Apex Global campaign launched 6 months later to widespread industry acclaim. Jeffrey and his team were thrilled with our work, and the partnership proved even more valuable than initially projected. At the launch party, Charles Williams pulled me aside. The board made the right decision backing you, he said, nodding toward where Maxwell was actually smiling while talking with Apex executives. You have transformed not just your department but Maxwell's approach to leadership. He consults with department heads now before making changes. That is your influence. Barbara Thompson also attended the launch, having remained connected to Horizon as a board advisor. When I saw that bouquet on your desk the day Maxwell arrived, I never imagined it would lead to all this, she laughed. You turned what could have been a career-ending disaster into your greatest triumph. I learned something important through all this, I told her. Professional value is not just about what you contribute, but also about how clearly you communicate that contribution and stand up for it when necessary. That evening, as the celebration wound down, Maxwell approached me with an unusual expression, humility. "I owe you a proper apology," he said quietly. "Not just for the misidentification, but for failing to recognize what you had built here. My previous experiences made me cynical about finding genuine talent and commitment. You proved me wrong, and Horizon is stronger because of it." His words brought closure to a chapter that had begun with humiliation but ended with unprecedented professional growth. In standing up for myself and my team, I had not only reclaimed my position, but expanded my influence and impact on the company. 1 year after the day Maxwell fired me, I received an unexpected email from Jessica Ward, the woman I had been mistaken for. She had heard about the incident through industry connections and reached out to share her own experience working with Maxwell. We met for coffee and discovered we had much in common, ultimately becoming friends and professional allies. The experience taught me that our greatest professional challenges often contain the seeds of our most significant growth. Being fired had forced me to articulate my value more clearly than I ever had before. The temporary loss of my position had revealed how much I had built and how capable I was of defending it. Most importantly, I learned that professional setbacks, even devastating ones, need not define your career. How you respond to them, the integrity and persistence you bring to overcoming them, ultimately matters far more than the setback itself. Have you ever faced a professional crisis that initially seemed devastating, but ultimately led to growth? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe for more real-life workplace experiences. And remember, sometimes the moments that seem to be breaking your career are actually the ones making it stronger. Thank you for watching, and may you find the courage to stand up for your value in your own professional journey.